We looked recently at using serial print to allow us to get data as the program runs onto a screen so we could see what was happening. And for that we used the command serial begin to set up the link between the Nano or the Uno and the computer itself. And then once that was set up, we were able to put in commands such as print or print line. In this case, print is printing out a piece of text and print line is printing out a value for a variable. The ln at the end just means can't return line feed, so it jumps to a new line. So if we were to program the chip with that program, it's done. Took 3070 bytes, and we're now able to go to the tools, serial monitor, and we can see the results from those calculations. And that's fine. But in a large program where you've put in multiple serial prints, particularly scattered all the way through the program, they've got two problems. One is that they take up memory space, are compiled as part of the program even though you're not using them as the program runs. You've used them just for debugging purposes and to help the programming process. So they're not required, yet they're taking up valuable memory space. And the second problem is, of course, they take up time. Every time you've got to write to the screen, then that's time taken away from other processing. So you can either use serial print line statements to help you develop a program, and then when you think they're finished you can delete them, or you can comment them out so they don't get compiled. Problem with the first one is if you take them all out and then you want to make some changes, then I've got to put these 40 serial print statements all back in again. So you're tempted to leave them in and comment them. And if you comment them, that's fine, it won't be compiled, but the problem would be that potentially you miss some, especially if they're scattered throughout the program. So what is a way round that? If you look at the help pages for the Arduino, you'll come across this definition, define. You can read it in more detail there, but the main points from our point of view are this. So this is it, short and slightly, but what it does essentially is take one value and replace it with another. And it does that before the program is compiled. The red text is my emphasis. So it replaces any reference it finds with another reference. Why would you want that? Well, that's the example they give on the help page, that you define the lead pin as 3. So any time you want to send a digital write to pin 3, you simply say do it to lead pin. But from our point of view, it doesn't have to be pin configurations. We could do that. And that would mean every time I use the word Davy in my code, it would replace it with the word David as it compiles it. So we can change names, but we can change statements. We can change commands from one command to another, or from one statement to a command. as we'll see next. Now we know what define does. How can we use it in this example? Well, let's start by renaming serial print and serial print line. So copy that, find every instance of it, and we'll replace it with monitor. We now have a command called monitor, which doesn't exist in the IDE's compiler. Not a problem. We'll go back up to the top here. What I'll do now to save time is I'll just cut and paste these lines of code in. And now we've got two options depending on the value here. If that value is a 1, then at compile time it will replace all instances of the word monitor with the words serial print, and it'll replace all instances of monitor ln with serial print ln. However, if that value is 0, it will replace the word monitor with nothing, and monitor ln with nothing. In other words, they will not be included at compile time, and your program will be shorter. So let's put in a value of 1 and compile. And as before, 3070 bytes as we expected. And of course, if we go up here and run serial monitor, it works because we've set that value to 1. However, if I set that value to 0 and compile and run the program, it's now been reduced from 3070 to 2462. A substantial saving in memory and time. And if I use the monitor now, nothing, because we haven't compiled these serial prints into the final program. So a few lines of code makes future debugging easier and saves time and memory space in your programs.